Welcome to the Gestalt IT Rundown, where each time we meet, we run down the IT news of the week with a varying degree of snarkiness. I'm your host, Stephen Foskett, and joining me today is my co-host, Zach DeMeyer. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Stephen. Always a pleasure to be here.
So, Zach, as I'm sure you marked your calendar, today is International Sloth Day. And I don't refer to being really lazy. I refer to perhaps the cutest animals' undiscovered cuteness. You know what I mean?
Oh, man. Sloths are, I think they should be up at the top of the cute list. If you haven't already, go find a video with some baby sloths in it and just get ready to cry a little bit from the cuteness because they are just simply adorable. It is unreal.
Sloths in a bucket.
Oh,
for that one. Bucket of sloths. Honestly, though, I got to say, I prefer a lemur or maybe even an impish injury, as we'll get to here in a moment. Let's first take a look at some of the week's news. A major U.S. candy manufacturer recently got back into business after recovering from a ransomware attack. Chicago-based Ferrara Candy, the parent company of Lemonheads, Atomic Fireballs, Keebler, and others, announced that the shutdown in operations is not likely to halt their production of candy going into the Halloween season, which is good because this is the same company that produces everybody's favorite, well, everybody but me because they're disgusting, favorite confectionery candy corn. Zach, what do you take of this tale, apart from the fact that it is clearly caused by their decision to make turkey dinner candy corn?
Oh, yeah, Stephen, I think that was probably the main source behind the attack. Whoever this person that perpetrated this attack was certainly heard the news and probably came in to try and stop it. And I don't blame them, honestly. That's terrible. No, but in all seriousness, it seems like Ferrara Candy did have most of their I's dotted and their T's crossed for this one because it's based on the story that we have in the show notes. It seems like really quite a relatively quick turnaround on their part, reloading old snapshots and trying to resume production as normal. So honestly here, I'd say chalk one up for the security and IT team at Ferrara Candy, because it seems like, despite everything that happened by way of the attack, they're coming out okay. And like you mentioned, with Halloween coming up, closer and closer, it's good that they'll be able to continue cranking out the sugary sweets that the children crave. So on to another story. Although once just a CSI plugin, the InfoScale storage virtualization software from Veritas is now containerized. Used to switch apps between storage infrastructure to adapt for issues or other problems that arise, the new cloud nativity of the product allows it to provide higher availability for K8's workloads. Stevens, do you think this will become a common pattern for other cloud storage providers?
Yeah, let's take a look here. First of all, I think a lot of people in our audience may not be so familiar with Veritas. This is a company that has been basically a key component of the storage infrastructure stack. Well, basically, as long as I've been doing stuff in storage, and that's a long time. I will tell you that back in the 90s, Veritas Volume Manager and their Foundation Suite were a key storage virtualization platform. And of course, they're really well known as well for their data protection software. The problem is that a lot of newer competitors, including Portworx with Pure Storage that we've talked about recently, and of course, any other container storage interface, have been, kind of moving into this cloud native space and leaving Veritas stuck in the data center. The InfoScale product itself actually came originally from some of the original Veritas technologies and sort of brought together a lot of their virtualization technology, as you say, into the world of CSI and containers. So it was actually a nice thing for those of us who've been in the industry for a long time to see this announcement made at KubeCon of truly a cloud native containerized version of the Veritas InfoScale product, because frankly, It's a really nice product. It's a good alternative to some of the other storage platforms that we're seeing out there. And of course, it really is quite enterprise capable. So overall, I'm excited to be able to talk about this product because I feel like it's one of those things that old school data center people might understand, but some of the cloud native DevOps people might not. It's worth a look at the very least to see what Veritas is doing with InfoScale. Now let's move on to some, well, kind of head scratching news. The governor of Missouri recently put out an order to prosecute a journalist who responsibly reported a massive vulnerability in one of the state's websites. The app in question leaked hundreds of social security numbers for teachers and school staff within the state of Missouri and was visible by accessing the page's source code. Despite this, Governor Parsons demanded that the hackers responsible be put to justice, earning him a lot of flack on Twitter and other outlets. Zach, tell us a little bit more about this funny story.
Yeah, this is like you said, Stephen, it's a real head scratcher. The ability to view a page's source code has been around almost pretty much as long as the internet. I on a Mac on Google Chrome, you can just press Command Shift C and it'll open it up right for you. You can see what's going on in the HTML and the CSS. And, as someone who has worked in web development before, it's a very useful tool for figuring out, if your page is working correctly, honing in on specific issues or other places that you're trying to buff up from a design perspective. And clearly it just shows the governor's lack of technical aptitude, which I think for me really draws into question, sometimes you have politicians who are making decisions about big technical things and have really no idea what sort of things are going on in the background. I mean, clearly in this case, the person who reported it was not a hacker. They were just, they just pressed a quick command on their keyboard and went and saw that, tons of social security numbers were at the behest of anyone who decided to do anything with them. Now, I mean, I hope and pray that none of those social security numbers were used in any way that'd be compromising to those teachers, because I'm sure that they're having a hard enough time as it is with the way that the school systems are in the United States these days. But moving on beyond that, it's just I think at the end of the day, the flack that Governor Parsons received is fairly deserved, and honestly really should, like I said earlier, kind of draw into question these decisions being made by people who really don't have any idea what they're talking about when it comes to security and cybersecurity and tech in this regard. And maybe you might want to just get a team of people, surround yourself with folks who have a bit better of an idea of what they're talking about, and maybe don't try to shove the police force down the throat of some journalist who is just doing their job and just looking and, not trying to make headline news, but honestly just trying to say, hey, this is a really big problem and you should probably do something about it. And maybe instead of turning your fiery ire against that person, why not turn your fiery ire against the person that made the website in the first place and put in this code that allowed for this to be sourced. It's just one of those stories that really make you go, really? All right, Stephen, let's move on to one that is of particular interest to you, especially as one of the most recognizable faces in tech marketing. Eric Herszog was just announced as the new head of marketing for Infinidat, creators of high-end storage arrays. Once the CMO for IBM's storage division, Herszog claims that a main driver behind the move is his adrenaline junkie nature, as the move from Big Blue to scrappy startup is a David and Goliath story in his eyes. In your opinion, Stephen, is this a good move for Herszog?
Absolutely. I've known Eric for a long time. In fact, a lot of people like me in the storage industry have known and respected him for a long time. As you mentioned, we're familiar with him from such, small companies as Maxtor, EMC, Violent Memory, Tarman, IBM, nobody you've ever heard of. He has always been a very energetic and insightful marketer. And frankly, I was thrilled to see him moving over there to Infinidat. If you don't know of Infinidat, it really is a wonderful high-end storage system. In fact, we mentioned it recently when we were discussing the EMC PowerMax from Dell, as well as the recent announcements with Hitachi Vantara and their high-end storage arrays, because that's the market that Infinidat plays in. And now they've got a marketer who can come in there and share that with the enterprise storage world. So frankly, I'm just thrilled to see this move, because I love it when good technology is partnered with good marketing skills, and because it means that perhaps we'll see more rollout of technology like this in the future. So really looking forward to seeing what happens here with Infinidat going forward. I think this is the best news that's come out of that company in quite a while. So really looking forward to it.
Absolutely, me too. Well, let's move on. You hinted at it earlier, Stephen, but let's dive in and give it a closer look today, as big news this week came out for Linux fans. The newest version of Ubuntu has released. It is the 21.10 iteration, dubbed Impish Indie. And this new version of the operating system coming out of Canonical supports the widest range of devices yet for Ubuntu. It also features new integrations with Apache Cassandra, simplifying AIOps workloads, and a Kfence product or feature, which is a new memory error detecting feature. We recently had the opportunity to chat with Rob Gibbon from the Canonical camp about the release. And after that conversation, Stephen, what were your takeaways?
Yeah, so as I said to Rob in that discussion, I'm a big Ubuntu user. In fact, everything I run is Ubuntu. I have been using Linux since the original Linux email from Linus Torvalds back in the early 1990s, and went through a number of different distributions, but I am full on board with Ubuntu. And frankly, I'm really looking forward to seeing the next LTS release next year. Those of you who don't understand sort of the cadence and so on, let me just kind of clear that up. So Canonical releases Ubuntu on a steady sort of a tick-tick-tock pattern. And so we have what they call LTS releases, which are supported for many years, have all the greatest security, and that's what most people run in production of the LTS releases. And then they have these major but not LTS releases that come a few times a year. That's what this is. So what we're seeing now is Ubuntu 21.10, that's meaning the 10th month of 2021 is the release date. And this can be seen as the prelude to the next LTS release of Ubuntu, which we will probably see in April. What that means is that this is where the new kernel comes in. This is where new snaps, new features, updated packages. I mean, basically everything in this has been revved and updated with the latest and greatest stuff. And even though it's not an LTS release, it's still an excellent, stable release of the operating system. In fact, I have already updated my development systems to run Impish Indie because I want to make sure that when the next LTS version comes out, I'm ready to handle it. And I've uncovered any incompatibilities with different libraries and packages beforehand so that I can quickly move to the next LTS release. Canonical has really done a great job maintaining their version of Linux. And in fact, to such an extent that Ubuntu really has taken over the world, especially in the DevOps and cloud space. Essentially, everything is running Ubuntu or some kind of specialized slimmed down Linux. And there are very few people out there running any other distribution in production applications. This is also the operating system of choice in areas like high performance computing, mainframe, Linux on mainframe is a thing, and artificial intelligence and machine learning, which is of course another area of focus for me. I won't take too much time, but listen to the Utilizing AI podcast for more on that. And again, there's some cool stuff in here, including deeper integration with NVIDIA, which I truly appreciate because it can be a hassle to get ML drivers working on Linux systems sometimes. So the bottom line here is that impish Indri Ubuntu 21.10 is not the operating system you're going to be running for the next 5 years. That's 2204. But 21.10 is the operating system that you should be investigating, you should be working with, you should be testing, because that way you'll be ready for the next LTS release when it does come out. So, I mean, overall, this is a great release. So far, my experience has been great. It's been very stable. I'm very, very happy to see that they've upgraded the Linux kernel. So we've got support for the latest hardware, which is, one of those things that happens sometimes with these long-term releases of the operating system. You don't necessarily get the latest kernel and the latest drivers because, they want to make sure it's stable. But at the same time, you're buying a new system, you might need updated kernel and drivers. And so we've got that in here. I haven't found any problems with it whatsoever, except the usual exciting variety of different revisions of Python. But I guess that happens with every operating system release. Anyway, so this is a good release. I really was appreciative of being able to spend some time with Canonical, getting a preview of it, and I do recommend checking it out.
Absolutely, yeah. Definitely a big thanks to Rob Gibbon as well as Kathy Wright from Off Leash PR for setting up that conversation, because it was certainly a blessing for us to be able to go in and learn more. And like you said, it's very exciting for all those Linux users out there. So definitely get out, give it a try, and get ready for the next LTS release. Alrighty, well, let's move on and look at some of the things that are coming up in the week ahead. One thing in particular of interest to us, you'll notice that our colleague Tom Hollingsworth is not here with us today, and that is because he is at Security Field Day 6, which is taking place today, October 20th to the 22nd. You can tune in at techfieldday.com as well as on LinkedIn to see all of the wonderful presentations and hear from all of the delegates.
Thanks, Zach. Another thing that's going on today, tomorrow, and Friday, depending on which time zone you're in, is NetApp Insight. So today is the Americas version, and we've got EMEA and APAC. Just go to insight.netapp.com to tune in for that one. Then also next week, we've got Intel Innovation, part of 2021, which is part of the Intel On series. That's October 27th and 28th.
And then capping off in 2 weeks from now, November 3rd to 5th, we'll have Stephen Foskett hosting the Cloud Field Day 12 event. Once again, you can watch that on the Tech Field Day website and on LinkedIn to see all of the wonderful presentations.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. Remember that the Gestalt IT Rundown is available as a podcast as well as live on YouTube every Wednesday at 12:30 Eastern Time. You can just go to youtube.com/GestaltIT video to watch it there, or you can find it in your favorite podcast application. We also post these videos to Facebook as well as LinkedIn, and we'll be back next week to talk about the IT news of the week that was. So until then, for myself, Stephen Foskett, and for all of us here in the Gestalt IT family, here's wishing you and yours a candy corn-filled holiday.